when you get the final exam at the end of the semester, there are going to be several types of equations on there. Okay, you're going to encounter lines, circles, parabolas, exponential equations, logarithmic equations, and so on. Okay, you need to be able to recognize the kind of equation you're working with. Okay, for example, if something is, if you have the equation of a line, you're going to work with it differently than you would a circle. Okay, so it's very helpful to recognize the type of equation that you're dealing with. Okay, so we are now going to turn our attention to the equation of a line. How do you recognize that an equation represents a line? Now, the equation of a line can come in three different formats. Okay, there's slope-intercept form, general form, and then at the top of page 3, there's also something called point-slope form. Okay, so we're going to go through each of the types and discuss. Okay, so the most popular way that you might see the equation of a line is in something called slope-intercept form. Okay, so if you look in the box, okay, that's this format. Okay, if you see an equation that has the format y equals mx plus b, that is what's known as slope-intercept form. Okay, so when you look at this particular equation, x and y are variables, but m and b have meaning. Okay, m is the slope of the line, and b is the y-intercept of the line. Okay, if you read what this particular equation is good for, okay, it tells you right here, it says slope-intercept form is most useful for identifying the slope in the y-intercept of a line. Okay, if you are given a line in this format, y equals mx plus b, you can immediately say, hey, the number in front of x is the slope, and then this number that you're adding, the plus b, that's the y-intercept. That's why this format is called slope-intercept form. Okay, because when something is written in this format, y equals mx plus b, it's telling you two things. It's telling you the slope of the line, and it's telling you the y-intercept of the line. Okay, so another important use of this particular equation, okay, is for graphing a line. Okay, so here's why. Okay, if you are given your line in y equals mx plus b form, the first thing you can identify is the y-intercept. Okay, and then you can go and plot that y-intercept on the graph. Okay, now remember, you only need 2 points to determine a line. So one of your points is the y-intercept. So what you can do is then identify the m value, the slope value, and that's your rise over run. It tells you how to move from the y-intercept. Okay, so if you start at your y-intercept and you apply the rise over run, that's going to take you to a second point on the line. Okay, and then your line will just go through those 2 points. Okay, so y equals mx plus b represents a line, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. This format is very useful for identifying the slope and the y-intercept of a line, and it's also very, very helpful for graphing a line. All right, your line may instead come in general form. Okay, so general form looks like this, what's in the box. Okay, so a times x plus b times y is equal to c. Okay, again, x and y are your variables. A, B, and C will just be numbers. Okay, so if I gave you, I'm just going to make something up. If I gave you 2x minus 3y is equal to 4, okay, this is a line. It fits that format, ax plus by equals c. Okay, so here a would be 2, b would be -3, and c would be 4. Okay, so general form, I'll be honest, it's not really helpful for anything. Okay, the only reason you need to know it is because oftentimes the line may be presented to you in this way, and you have to recognize that it's a line. Okay, now I'm going to ask you something here, okay? If your line were indeed what I've written down, 2x minus 3y is equal to 4, okay? I want you to take a minute and tell yourself, I want you to identify the slope of this line. What do you think it is? Okay? Well, if you went ahead and told me 2, you are not correct. Okay? You may be thinking, well, if I looked at slope-intercept form y equals mx plus b, the number in front of x is the slope. And that's true. In order to make that identification where the slope is the number in front of x, then the line has to be in slope-intercept form. Okay? If the line is given in general form, the slope is not the number in front of x. You actually have to convert this equation to y equals mx plus b form in order to identify the slope. Okay, so I'm actually going to do that here. Okay, if you were trying to get the slope of this line, you need to solve for y. Okay, so that it becomes in the format y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we're going to solve for y. So we're going to try to isolate this negative 3y term. Okay, so we're going to move the 2x piece over. Okay, 2x is positive, so to undo that, essentially we're adding it on the left, so we're going to subtract it from both sides. Okay, that's going to tell us that these two guys will cancel, the 2x and the negative 2x will cancel, and then that will tell us that negative 3y is equal to negative 2x, and then the 4 is positive, so plus 4. Okay, I wrote the x piece first because I'm trying to make it look like y equals mx plus b. Okay, and then lastly, if I want to get y by itself, I have to divide by negative 3. Okay, if you divide the left side by negative 3, you have to do it to the right side, and everything on the right has to get divided by negative 3. Okay, so this will turn into the negative 3's will cancel. You'll get y equals negative divided by negative is positive, so 2/3 x minus 4/3. Okay, so then it's in y equals mx plus b form, and you can go ahead and say, hey, the slope is the number in front of x, 2/3, and then the y-intercept is negative 4/3. Okay, so I want to emphasize to you this general form of a line, ax plus by is equal to c. All you really have to know it for is to be able to recognize that you're dealing with a line. Okay, if your line comes in this format and you're asked to identify the slope and the y-intercept, you're going to have to convert the general form to y equals mx plus b form. Okay, only if a line is in y equals mx plus b form can you identify the slope and the y-intercept. Please remember that. Okay, all right, there's one more format that your line may come in, and that's at the top of page 3. It's point slope form. Okay, just like slope-intercept form, the name is very telling. If you're dealing with slope-intercept form, that format will tell you the slope of the line and the y-intercept of the line. Point slope form is going to give you the slope of the line and a point on the line. Okay, so it says an equation of a non-vertical line with slope m that contains the point x1, y1 is given by what's in the box. Okay, so here's point slope form. It's pretty long. Okay, it's y minus y1 is equal to m times all of x minus x1. Okay, so the way you read these variables or these letters here, x and y are your variables. Okay, m is the slope of your line, and then x1, y1, that's a specific point on the line. Okay, so the way you're going to work with this particular format is you're going to plug in an m value for the slope, and you're going to plug in a point on the line. You would plug in x1, okay, for the x coordinate of the point that you know is on the line, and then you would plug in y1 for the y coordinate that you know is on the line. Okay, so you would plug in those two things, the slope and the point on the line. Okay, x and y are going to stay x and y. Okay, and then you can, do some algebra and turn that format into y equals mx plus b, and then you'll have your equation of the line. Okay, now What good is this particular format? Well, if you read below, it says point slope form is most useful for finding the equation of a line that has certain characteristics. So in a few examples from now, we're going to do examples of this, okay? You will be given characteristics of a line and you're going to be asked to come up with its equation, okay? So for example, you might be told, oh, the line has slope -5/6 and it goes through the point 1, -5, okay? Or you may be told, hey, the line you're looking for goes through the points -8, 2 and 119. Okay, so your line meets certain characteristics, and what you would do is you would plug into this point slope form in order to come up with the y equals mx plus b equation of the line. Okay, all right, so you've got to know all three formats for the equation of a line.